Hi, everybody. It is Sarah, the founder of the Live Like Rue Foundation, along with Laura, our medical director. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sarah?
Good. I'm going to just bring in Ryan right now because it's not that often, Ryan, that Laura sends me a text that says, "Are you sitting down?" And it could be anything when
Oh.
she says that. And so she texted me about a week ago, and it was your story, obviously. So everybody, please welcome Ryan from Littlewood Sanctuary. So you already know that Ryan's an amazing human. All we have to do is say that he runs a sanctuary for animals, right?
I mean, right back at both of you for everything that you two do. I've gotten to see you guys through Foreverland. From everything you did for Foreverland is how I was introduced to you guys. So I've been following Live Like Rue since you helped out Dora and got to see all the amazing work that you guys do.
Oh, thank you so much. So tell us first just a little bit about the sanctuary, and then we'll get into the story.
Okay, so Littlewoods was founded by myself and my wife, Molly. We started back in 2018. We were living just outside of Detroit, like literally like walking distance to the city border. And we just happened to be on a dirt road and have an acre and an old barn. And we decided that we were going to start a micro sanctuary. And at the time, it was more of like a personal hobby. So we rescued our first pig and we had some pigeons, and that kind of grew and grew. And then COVID hit. And after that first year of COVID and everything being shut down and being there all the time, we kind of made the decision where we're like, if we're going to do this, let's go all in. And so ended up in 2022, we sold our place there. And after a long search, we found the perfect place, and we are now in central Michigan. So we're like right in the middle of the Lower Peninsula. And we moved up here when we got our 501c3 status in the process of moving up here. And we now are home to around 44 animals. So we are a sanctuary. So we do permanent placement for animals. So we focus on animals that are not a suitable fit for private homes. We do, our mission is to provide lifelong care for animals that are from neglect, abuse, and at-risk situations. And everyone who comes here stays for their whole life. And our focus is also on farmed animals. So we have goats and pigs and ponies and chickens and turkeys and pigeons, but we do have a handful of cats that are former feral cats that we worked with a rescue and brought in, and they now have their own space and have all the lush setup of a house cat. But yeah, so we've been doing it for a while, and we are fully volunteer run and donor funded.
Wow, I mean, amazing. I'm going to have you on my podcast. So for those of you that listen to my podcast, we'll have Ryan on eventually because I want to hear more about that. I mean, I'm sure that, yeah, each animal, I'm sure, has an incredible story. I think it's really like unique to, I think especially Laura and I, we see animals come in to rescues, and then we're trying to get them homes. Like for you, like this is like the last stop.
Yeah.
And that's why like Foreverland Farm and you, that is so remarkable that you can take these animals that sometimes live for a long, long time, and like you are it.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to think about. Like when we so we have two ponies, and we've never, when we started, I said, we'll never do equines. I've been around horses. I like horses, but like they're so far out of our league of like expertise and experience. And we ended up with these two ponies, and they were like not even a year old when we brought them here. And then like in conversations, like, oh my gosh, we just made like a 20 to 30 year commitment, and it's like,
right.
Oh, like there's times that it kind of hits you like where you go, oh, this is like big time commitment, but it's worth it because we get to see a different side that like when you do rescue, which like I personally could never do rescue where you adopt animals out because I immediately get attached. I know that I'm way too much of a sucker. I would fail horribly at it. And like, so I'm always impressed with people that do that side of rescue. but it is cool because we get to like then have a different experience of like long term getting to know the individuals, and like a lot of times the animals coming to us are coming with trauma, physical and mental, emotional trauma, and so we get to see them actually like blossom and grow and heal in so many ways.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. So Laura, why don't you tell everybody why this application brought you to your knees and you wanted to be sure I was sitting down?
Well, just, we get so many applications every day. And we, unfortunately, I mean, I'd love for us to be able to give grants to everyone, and it's just not possible unless more donors want to donate all the time, which is fine. But I saw sanctuary in the email, so it led me to investigate your application right away. And I started reading the story of Billy and Maria, and then I saw that they were goats. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just stopped everything. I didn't even finish reading. And that's when I texted Sarah. I said, are you sitting down? And I said, we have funded a lot of different types of animals, from horses to rabbits to, there's been a variety, but goats would be a first. And then I went back to your application, and, I saw, I was so happy to learn of your sanctuary and your organization and what you do, but sad that you came to us through heartache. So I'm glad we're here, and hope that we can help you by sharing the story. But goats, Billy and Maria, wow. And then the pictures and videos you sent, I was just in my glory today looking at them.
Oh, they're so sweet. Tell us what's going on with
So
them.
so actually New Year's Eve. So this is, I'm going to try and hold it together through this. I told Brittany earlier, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off and not be a disaster. So New Year's Eve, we were doing our regular rounds and feeding dinner. And when I went to feed the goats dinner, I found Billy lifeless on the ground, and she like had snow on top of her. It was in the middle of a snow. I don't know if it was a snowstorm or just a decent snow. Um, and I thought she was gone already at that point, and I grabbed her and just screamed to Molly and ran to the house with her. I didn't even like get to this in the side by side. I just ran on foot. And like Molly's calling the vet on speaker as she's running alongside me. We got her inside, and so over the past little over a year, Billy has had these episodes where randomly she would just fall ill, but not severely, but like we would just notice she'd be a little off. And so we'd call the vet, we'd have the vet out, we'd run blood work, we'd do all this stuff. I can't even tell you how much blood works and all the tests that we've run on her over the past year and a half. And everything came back normal always. And we would do a round of like basic antibiotics and pain meds. And within a day or two, she'd bounce back. And so we always watch her, because one of the patterns we notice is that any kind of shift in weather would usually trigger an episode. And so we had already been watching her really closely because we've had this really rough winter. And so every time there's been anything on the radar, we keep an extra close eye on Billy. And that morning she was fine. And so when we found her like that, I was totally taken back, because that morning she was like standing on my hip asking for treats. And so we got her in. Our vet made it here. So we spent New Year's Eve basically reviving her. She was hypothermic from being in the cold, and we got her back, and then rushed her down to Purdue once she was stable enough. And when we got there, the doctor at Purdue, who we've worked with several times, basically was like, hey, this is either going to be something silly and like, not necessary for a hospital stay, or it's going to be something bad. And we had already kind of come to terms with that. And so they started doing diagnostics on arrival. And on ultrasound, they found a mass on her adrenal gland. And so immediately it was like apparent that we're dealing with something serious. And so they were able to get her in for a CT the next morning. And did a full body CT scan and ran through everything, confirmed the mass on her adrenal gland. And forgive me for not knowing all the terms, because there's like all the types of cancer and all the stuff in the notes. And I just, at this point, I've like just cut to the basics of retaining the basic information. And so this mass on her adrenal gland had compromised some veins and arteries and stuff around it, and it was inoperable. And then at the same time, they also found advanced stomach cancer in her. And so I had driven back. I had left her there and driven back home because I was like, she's going to be in the hospital for a few days, and then I'll go back and pick her up. And so the next morning, they called, told me what they found in the news, that like it was not only terminal, but that their suggestion was like a pretty immediate euthanasia, due to the fact that the way that the mass on her adrenal gland had compromised the arteries and veins and stuff, that she was basically a ticking time bomb. At any point it could rupture, which would then lead to serious suffering and catastrophic event, which obviously none of us dealing with animals want. And if there's any way to prevent their suffering, that's our number one priority. But we were able to go back and get her and bring her home. And she spent a few days in the house with us in our kitchen, hanging out and getting spoiled. And our volunteers all got to come see her and bring her snacks. And we had to let her go a few days later to avoid that risk of it going bad, because she was going either way. And I think like that's kind of the hard thing to wrap your mind around in that moment of like seeing this goat who looks happy and healthy, but on the inside is, her body is failing her in the worst of ways. And so, we had to let her go, and that was a really rough one. And I could talk forever on Billy, because she's been such a experience to rescue. Billy and Maria were rescued at the same time. They were part of our original goat rescue that we took in, and the two of them are both. When we got them, they were so incredibly fearful of humans. We couldn't get anywhere near them. It took us years of just patience and building trust to get them to come up to us. And finally, the last year, Billy would approach me, and like a month before she passed was the first time she came up, and she stood on me and stood up on my hip and was asking for cookies out of my pocket. And like just like these moments that were so special, because it was such a huge progression and shift, only to then lose her. And so we lost Billy January 5th, and then not even, or just under 2 weeks later, I think almost to the day, we were outside doing stuff, or I was out feeding in the morning, and I saw Maria. And so Maria's all white, and she's always like this like stunning presence. She's a very majestic looking being, and she turned around to walk away from me, and I saw just a little bit of blood on her tail. And obviously, anytime you see blood, like it's not a good thing. And so we got her and got her cleaned up, and we're like looking and trying to find some source of the bleeding, some trauma or something. There's nothing there, and she's acting totally fine. So we called the vet, or I texted the vet, and her immediate response was like, I don't want to have to tell you what I have to tell you after what we've just been through. But basically the odds were that it was a uterine mass causing the bleeding. But she was optimistic. She's dealt with this a handful of time in goats, and been able to send them in for a spay, and be able to remove it all. So goats, we don't spay goats, same as horses, because the procedure is higher risk versus like the reward of spaying them. So it's not standard to spay goats. They don't do great under surgery. So we made a plan. We brought her down to Purdue the following morning, and they agreed on with what our vet said. They did an ultrasound, and they found a large mass, a uterine mass, that was also then compromising her bladder. And so the concern then was that they weren't sure if they could remove it, because if it had infiltrated the wall of the bladder, it would make it inoperable. And then also on ultrasound, because they did the full check, they found a thymoma in her neck, which is actually a pretty common cancer in older goats. They get thymomas on their esophagus, and that's, another one of those terminal. Most of the time they're inoperable. We have friends that have done radiation and stuff on younger goats that have gotten them. And so they did a CT the next morning because we're like, hey, let's do it. Like, let's fingers crossed that we can get stuff removed and she can be good. And they did the CT, and it got to the point that the lead vet on the case was like trying to be optimistic, and she called and she was like, I think we can do it. I think we can do it. And then the head of surgery at Purdue looked over it, and the optimism kind of went away. And he not only was concerned about the bladder, but then the tissue of the cervix was compromised and of the rectum. And it became this conversation of, I can try and open her up and remove this, but she's going to go through all of that to then have the thymoma not be operable. And the prognosis was not great, and basically told us we have weeks to months with her. So the good news in her situation is she got to come home, and again, looking at her, you would never know. So outside of the cancer masses, she's like happy and healthy and alert and eating. And she was very angry, so she's less social. She will come take cookies from us, but she has no desire. Like, our other goats will trample me to like cuddle and want attention, and she is just like, give me treats, do not touch me. And so when I picked her up at Purdue, she was very angry and was headbutting. I just drive them in the back seat of the truck because I don't like putting them in the trailer because it's so scary for them. And so she's literally in the back seat just headbutting me the whole way, and she kept biting my arm as I'm driving, and like, so. But she got to come home, and so Maria's home with us now, and she is, we get to spoil her, but it's a hospice case, and it sucks, as you guys know. Like, you see this all the time, and it's one of those ones where you try and be optimistic and hopeful, and like, the air just gets sucked out of you.
Totally. Yeah, I get it. I know, I'm like thinking, like, what can we do a bucket list for goats? Like, how can we do fun things with the goat that doesn't like? But the fact that you had Billy in the kitchen, I mean, that's my kind of person. I grew up with pigs, and like, my dad would bring the pig inside and my mom would freak out. So I think it's awesome that you have a partner that also understands like the importance of this, to you as well, which is, giving them the proper goodbye, and you doing that as a team, building the sanctuary. It's just amazing. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, because like, Laura and I hear about cases, where a dog passes away and then the other dog gets sick, but this is like unheard of. Especially, two goats that you saved together from an abuse case. It's just so sad. And I think, when you think of even Rue, who came from, an owner surrender, obviously not treated great, and then finally out of a shelter and then get sick. It's so not fair to these animals. I think we all feel that way.
Yeah, I think that's like, it is like kind of, it sucks because like we try and be optimistic because anybody in rescue with animals, you see the worst of humanity in dealing with rescue situations, but it takes a lot of effort for us to like focus on the good and focus on all the positive and stuff like this, where it's just like, it's just not fair, like for them, like our emotions and our feelings aside, like it's just not fair for them. And like you were saying, like they got the insanity that it's like these two goats that were rescued at the same time, they were also bonded. So of the 6 from that rescue, they were like, that's why every picture I sent you, they're in together. Like if you look, one of them's behind the other one, or like even if it's a photo of one of them, if you look in the back, the other one's right there because they were always together. And so like that's where it's just like, like you can see Maria laying in the back there. Like where it's like, what are the odds these two individuals 2 weeks apart, and they both have 2 different forms of untreatable cancer? And it's just like, it sometimes it just sucks. I'm trying not to swear. I have such a foul mouth and curse like a sailor, so I'm trying not to like. say anything horrific that will offend people.
It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
You're in good company
Yeah,
with
I
Sarah and I.
yeah, I offended plenty of people this week, so we're all good. Well, I have good news for you. So if you want the good news is we're going to pay all of your bills for both goats.
Thank you. That I don't. It sucks because it's like when this stuff happens, especially as a nonprofit, it sucks so hard because all your focus and energy is on what's happening with them, but then you have to think about money, and it's the absolute worst feeling. And even like having to like fundraise in the midst of any emergency, much less when it's a terminal situation, it makes you want to throw up. Like it's so unnatural to have to put an ounce of energy into the finances. Um, I, I I don't even I can't thank you enough. Like that we're such a small sanctuary, we're such a small organization. Um, and like I sent you in the email that like the two of them, their emergency vet costs and fees is over half of what we spent on vet care last year altogether. And we do a lot of vet care. We took in 6 pigs last year, and one of them is a special needs individual, and so he had been to Purdue multiple times and got multiple CT guided procedures last year, just to like an idea of these two and their situation, and like the stress that then that compounded on top of the emotional stress of like even with Billy, where it was like, oh my God, we're literally not even 24 hours into the year in dealing with a catastrophic situation that is equally financially like impactful to the organization and what we're able to do. And then to 2 weeks later be in it with Maria. Like there was a point where like I was texting Brittany from Foreverland, and I was just like, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like I know we'll be okay, but it at that point was like, we're just going to have to close our doors for the year and focus on everyone we have, and that's it. And we aren't going to be able to do anything else, and pray that no one else gets sick, and I can't thank you enough. And I don't know how to describe the weight that lifts off of us, and the stress that removes, and the ability to then focus on what's important in the time we have with Maria left.
You're welcome, of course. Yeah. And we want to see more of Maria. I know people will be following the story. But, in addition to the money, just let us know anything she needs. I mean, if you guys want to do a goat photo shoot, I would love to set that up for you. That would be amazing. But if there's anything that she loves, we're happy to send it. And that's another important point that I was going to say, before we even offer you the money is you have 43 other animals that you're trying to take care of right now. And you never know. The cost. Yeah. You guys heard of it if you listen to my if you saw the story about Dora or listen to that podcast too, the cost of medical procedures for farm animals is insane. And the transport sometimes costs money, or the vet coming to you, Ryan, I know costs a lot. So being able to help somebody like this, it means a lot to us too. It's not just cool to say, oh, now we helped a goat and we can add it to our little logo, but like we really love what you do. And we really, really appreciate what you do, because not a lot of people can do this. So thank you.
It means a lot. And same to you too. Like I said, like Brittany has spoken so highly of you all and everything you've done, and how impactful you've been for them and helped them. And like, so even prior to this, like have been aware of the work that y'all do. And as someone, we've lost dogs to cancer, which, like, talking about crazy situations, we actually had that. My 2 dogs that were my first dogs as an adult, who I had before Molly and I met, and then they became her dogs and we had them forever. Duke got a super rare cancer. He was 9 years old, and he passed away. And then exactly a year later, Maxwell, who was 12, went down, rushed him to the vet, and he had a softball sized mass. And we lost him a year later. So it's like the impact, the cancer in animals is so upsetting, because there's just so few options, and the options there are, most people don't have the resources to even have that as a choice. And so what you all do for so many people is like it's incredibly impressive and so special, and like from a personal stance, it's really important.
Thank you. You're so sweet. And just know that we're here for sure. Brittany, she's got me on speed dial. She knows like anytime Dora has an appointment or needs anything, or they have another animal with cancer, like you guys are a Roo family for life. So please let us know anytime you need anything. Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. Laura will be in touch. We'll get you some funds, and then we'll go from there. If you want a photo shoot or anything, we're here for you.
I can't thank y'all enough. It really like I feel like I'm probably gonna sleep really good tonight. It's been such a rough month, and so this means so much to us, and I can't wait to tell Molly. She's in the office on another meeting call, so I can't wait to get to tell her.
You should get a reaction.
Recorder.
Yeah.
Recorder.
Action for sure. All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Have a great night. It was great catching up with you.
Nice
You too.
meeting you.
Talk to you
Take
soon.
care.
Thank you so